very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Amy Cheney, and I'm the president and CEO of Crayons to Computers in Cincinnati, Ohio. I joined Crayons to Computers just a little more than 3 years ago. And when I came on board, one of the early things that I started musing about was online ordering and that particular channel as a way to distribute product. And it occurred to me early on that one of the challenges with online ordering is that we're a nonprofit organization, and your big box stores, your grocery stores, they do online ordering because it's another way for them to sell more product. So there's a revenue source attached, and for us it would be another way to give away more product for free, but there's no revenue attached, and there's certainly some potential additional costs and so forth. And here we are 3 years later in the middle of a worldwide pandemic, and some of us are in this arena now of online ordering with a bit of a frenzy. And there are more challenges to the process and the prospect of doing online ordering than just the financial side of things. So hopefully today we'll illuminate some of those. We'll get a better understanding of what several of us are doing and have some discussion that hopefully will be helpful to all of us as we move forward. The focus for the discussion today is online ordering in lieu of the store being open. That's the approach that I wanted to focus on for today, because that's kind of the position that at least some of us are in. So my working definition for the conversation today is soliciting custom orders from teachers and then picking and packing those individualized orders as opposed to distributing a preset kit of products via curbside distribution. So that's going to be the bulk of our conversation today. So I wanted to just kind of have that as a level set definition to start. I'd like to thank our panelists and contributors today, including Tanisha T. Poole from Classroom Central in Charlotte, Angela Garcia from A Gift for Teaching in Orlando, Sarah Westrick and Kendall Glover from Crayons to Computers in Cincinnati, Stephanie Weber from Schoolhouse Supplies in Portland, Oregon, and Terry Johnson from Project Teacher in Wichita. Just before Thanksgiving, I launched an online ordering survey to the field. We had 15 total responses, so clearly it's not enough to draw any scientific conclusions from it, but I thought there was a lot of really good information in there, and it was very helpful for purposes of today's discussion. So what I plan to do is to go through the survey and share some of the most relevant of the results, specifically about online ordering and the definition that I've described for today. And then I can share a link to the survey report on the Basecamp later today or over the weekend. So if you want to get in there and dig in to see the results, you can do that. So of the 15 respondents, there were 8 resource centers that have their store open currently, and 7 centers that do not. But there are only 3 of us that do not have the store open and are doing online ordering using the definition that I described. And those are Classroom Central, A Gift for Teaching, and Crayons to Computers here in Cincinnati. So I'll start by saying that in Cincinnati, we are later to this party as we just changed to Apple Base in July, and we needed to complete the setup process as well as get a better understanding of exactly how the software works and work with the developer on making some things work better for our needs. So we just began doing online ordering on October 26th. And for us, it became imperative that we offer online ordering when our state alert system for the COVID situation hit red for our main county that we serve. We have 16 counties, so we're with the county that we're actually physically located in. And the operating guidelines that we had put together back in the summertime required us to close the store if the county were to hit red. So what we're doing is truly in lieu of the store being open. So I just wanted to ask, first of all, for both Angela and T, when did you start this version of online ordering? And I say this version because I believe that at least in Orlando, you were doing Pencil Boy online for the last couple of years. I suspect this might be a little different. So when did this version start for each of you?
We kicked ours off in September. So yes, we did have an online program previously. It was a delivery though, not a curbside. And it was in conjunction with also having our store open. So we opened a little bit late. Normally we open in August. Since we went to a curbside model, we needed more time. And so we didn't start till September.
Right. And T?
For us, we had we kicked it off in July with just a small amount of people. We did about 100 people as a trial run, but then we opened it up to all of our teachers in the month of August. So that's the way we started back to school.
Okay, great, thank you. So continuing through the survey, all 15 of the survey respondents are distributing product in ways that go beyond the store. And the most common response to that particular question was some form of bulk distributions to schools directly. And I'm going to kind of put that on the back burner, and we'll come back to that towards the end of our conversation to explore just a little more some of the other ways of distributing product that some of the centers shared with us. The number of items that's available, that are available online was another question, and the online, the numbers range from about 51 items to, I know we are at 82, and I think we were at the high end of that range. So, and that represents between 41 and just about 50% of the number of items that would typically be available in the store when the store is open. So Angela, when you had done Pencil Boy online in the past, what was the approximate number of products that would be available when in the previous iteration of your online ordering, and then what does it look like today?
So today, actually, we just made our January product list, and it'll be about 71 items that we will have offered, which is like triple almost what we used to have on online.
Right. So you were somewhere around 20 when it was the previous version of your online?
Probably a bit more than that, but
okay.
30-ish, 35.
Okay. All right. As far as the product mix, this was another area of question. The product mix was pretty much everyone selected, at least some of the organizations selected all of the options. So core product was, clearly a pretty popular one, but also items where there is consistency and quantity, like you've got enough of it in the warehouse that you can actually put it online. There were items selected to be included because they were perceived to be useful during these particular times with students learning in all different modes of learning. And then there was some consideration given to the most shopped items, the items that are most frequently taken. But there were some other responses from across all respondents, and that included books by grade level, big ticket items, and Indianapolis specifically mentioned that one. I did go in to look to the details because I thought it was helpful to know who was saying things. So perhaps if there's someone from Indianapolis on, we can come back to that and hear a little bit more about that at the end, at least through the chat. Someone also mentioned slow moving items were something that they took advantage of the opportunity to put online. And then arts and math manipulatives for home learning was another item that was included in the product mix. The number of orders, of online orders per month, was a particularly, I think, helpful and interesting thing to take a look at. So across the 3 centers that are doing this form of online ordering, the number of orders per month ranges from about 400 to 700 to 900 was another of the responses. And they're being scheduled 1 month at a time for one center and then a week at a time at the other 2. So just to kind of think about that cycle of how things are working. I wanted to ask Kendall if you would talk about where we started here in Cincinnati and where we are now and in the near future in terms of the numbers of orders that we're taking. You're muted. Down on the left. There you go.
We started with approximately trying to do 40 to 50 orders per day. In a sense, that would mimic what the flow of traffic that we would have in our store on a normal day. We did find that was very tough to maintain early on, so we kind of drilled it back to approximately 30 to 35 teachers' orders per day. And again, we're picking on a weekly cycle. So every week is a new batch of approximately, 90 to 100 teachers that we take care of in that time frame.
I'll jump in to add, when we really first started, we started at 60.
That's
and then we quickly trimmed it down, and now we've trimmed it down again.
Yeah. And just to clarify, the 60 is how many we're aiming for 60 teachers to pick up their orders. So they schedule, and so that's the idea, is to try to have 60 per day, and we're looking at Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday as pickup days. So Angela and T, why don't you, I didn't have this on your list of questions, but why don't you share a little bit about what you're doing numbers wise? I think, is it Angela, are you the center that's doing 700 to 900 orders a month?
Yes, we actually just finished November. We actually just finished November, 972 orders. So we really felt that, and we will not be going quite that high the next month. But yes, we're aiming more for the 700 range. But we do it per week. We don't schedule ahead of time like some of you all do for their pickup. They can just pick it up at any time when we're open. But we have the ability, we're doing it every week, the numbers of orders, so we can control. Maybe if we got too busy the first week, we can lower the number the second week, and it can fluctuate just based off our capacity at the time.
And T, how about you?
For us, we started out at about 90 orders a day. And like you, Sarah, we were like, oh, that we had to scale that back quickly because it was just too much to manage. Right now, we're managing about 700 orders per month, with this month being a little lower just because we're closed the last 2 weeks due to the holiday. But we order for the entire month, and we opened up on December 1st, and we were full within 3 hours. All 525 slots had been taken, but we packed by the week. So we knew this Thursday we had people coming in, so we started packing their orders first. So we packed by the day.
So when a teacher when a teacher orders, they are picking the day that they're going to pick up. So you know what you have to have done by a particular day. And Angela, are you doing something similar then when you're taking your orders? Or do you know when the teachers are going to come pick up?
We like to keep it a surprise. No, we don't know. So when they're emailed that their order is ready, they're given a deadline in which they have to pick it up by. Okay. So we know that the days we're open are Tuesday through Thursday, 10:30 to 6, and they can come at any time, which has actually been really helpful for us because we get a lot of husbands and spouses and dads picking up orders for their for the teachers. So.
Yeah. Okay. So another question on the survey was the number of orders, and so therefore the number of teachers being served, and how that compares to pre-COVID shopping numbers. And so across the 3 organizations that are doing this form of online ordering, the number of orders represents 31 to 60% of our pre-COVID numbers, which is really a lot fewer than what we would be doing if the store were open. So I wanted to ask Angela and T if you've had any discussion internally about what's our story, what's our public story about this year? Because clearly it's explainable, but is there a silver lining that you're thinking about in terms of how you talk to the public about what you've been able to do?
I think for us, one of the things that we've talked about internally a lot is the way that and this word is used so much. We've I won't say pivot, we've adjusted to the change, and we've done a lot of collaboration throughout the community with community partners and learning pods. So that alone has helped us to distribute a lot more products. So for me, and I think Karen would agree, that for us, it's all about the partnership right now, and we're working with the districts a lot to make sure that we can meet the students and teachers where they are. But those partnerships have really allowed us to ensure that the scholars have what they need to be successful.
Yeah.
Whether they're at home or in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. Good. That's great.
For us, I mean, we've done more bulk distribution so far this year than we would normally have done. We are serving less teachers now than we were previously when we had our store open, our mobile store, and our online store. Obviously, we're serving less than we were at that point, but we never did as much bulk distribution as we have been doing now, working directly with schools that we just find maybe aren't shopping with us because of it being curbside. It might be more difficult for them to get to us. location-wise. So we've done specific outreach to those schools to distribute product in bulk.
Okay, great. I will share that one of the things that we've started to have a little bit of conversation about internally here is that this has really been a year of research and development for us because of all the pivots. We've changed our distribution models, well, let's see, at least 2 or 3 times, maybe 4 times, I think, depending on how you count it. So we've tried a lot of different things, and we're still working hard to get product out to the teachers, but we're testing these new delivery methods, and we're learning a lot as we go along. So we think that there's a lot of things happening this year that will be helpful to the future, and to figuring out what we all look like post-pandemic. That's going to be an interesting discussion for all of our organizations to be having. All of us are involving volunteers, but the number of volunteers seems to be fairly different. So in Charlotte, I pulled off of the survey a maximum of 12 per day. In Orlando, I think 45 to 55 per week. In Cincinnati, we're looking at 16 to 20 volunteers per week. So I'm going to ask for comments from all 3. So let's start with Sarah. And ask Sarah to talk about Cincinnati's volunteer use and how that's shifted since late October, which days we're using volunteers, and talk a little bit about our regulars.
Sure. So we have primarily been using volunteers to help in the prepping of items, and really maybe Kendall can speak more to this, but so Kendall and another person on his team have worked to make our pick lines as streamlined and as efficient as possible. And so in order to do that, there's a lot of legwork to make sure that everything is ready as you walk down the pick line to grab and go. So you aren't pre-counting things out. You aren't spending time unboxing, unpackaging. And we feel more confident in general having the volunteers do all of that. And so the staff have been primarily picking and packing with some volunteers here and there, but the bulk of our volunteers have been doing that prep work. We started with 10, maximum 10 a day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday mornings. And most days that's not even full. And then we have a few spots in the afternoon for actual curbside pickup times. So we're using about 4 people in the afternoon to help with curbside or, again, other various projects. And then we added in Mondays. So right now we have 4 mornings a week we have volunteers here, and then 3 afternoons a week where we have volunteers here. And we're just using we call them family volunteers, or our regular volunteers. We have turned off any groups or one-time people. We felt internally that if our teacher free store wasn't open, because we didn't want teachers bringing everything from all sorts of places they are, we just felt the same way about groups, and just wanted to feel a little bit more connection with the people, them knowing us knowing them, in terms of our safety.
Right. T, could you share how many days a week you're having volunteers and what that looks like in Charlotte?
Yes, we have volunteers come in primarily Monday through Thursday. Our pickup days are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So we see morning and afternoon volunteers on those days. On Mondays, we can have morning and afternoon as well, just depending on if we have packing going on for curbside. And we also use volunteers to help prep the materials that go into the curbside packing. We may be packing pins together and grouping those items to make it quicker. They also pack all the orders. We have volunteers. Really no staff has to participate in that unless we have volunteers that fall off, but mostly volunteers pack all of our orders and prep them for pickup.
All right. There was a question that popped in my mind and it flitted away. So I'll go on to Angela and ask to hear, how many days a week are you having volunteers? It seems like you're getting a lot of volunteers, but I guess if you do the math on, 4 days a week at 12 a day, you're actually in the same zone. So, and are you using regulars mostly, or are you open to corporate volunteers and community groups?
So we have volunteers every day of the week. Monday through Thursday, there's a morning and afternoon shift. On Friday, there's only morning. We are mostly individuals. We have, not that we haven't accepted groups, we just have not been really, we haven't had very many requests for groups. You know, majority of ours were all corporate groups. And right now that's just not something they're promoting in their companies. We've had a couple, but very few. And since our volunteer size is no more than 10 people, if it is a small group of like 3 or 4 individuals that want to be together, they just sign up for the same shift.
All right. And you said you're having the volunteers pack as well.
Ours are packing and running the curbside,
Okay.
morning and afternoon, since we're open all day for curbside.
Okay, great. So in addition to the survey's choices of, we asked what volunteers were doing, and it was a lot of prep of product, picking orders, packing orders, and delivery of curbside. So we're seeing all of that here. Does either of you, I guess, who are using volunteers to do the packing, do you have any concerns about their familiarity with product, their ability to do the job the way that we would want it to be done? Have you had any issues with any of that so far?
We have not. We have a lot of regular and repeat volunteers on a weekly basis that do most of the packing. So that's eliminated any obstacles.
Yeah, the familiarity helps.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a level of human error, and they might accidentally grab, not enough or too much of a product. When teachers are missing items, they're pretty good about letting us know that they didn't receive their whole order. So we're able to remedy that. One area that we are seeing actually that we're having a little bit more of a problem with, our orders are packed in multiple bags. So teachers' orders are labeled and we'll say, Angela Garcia, bag 1 of 2, bag 2 of 2. And so we're finding that occasionally the volunteers aren't giving their teacher all of their bags.
Oh, sure.
And so then we're having to remedy that problem.
Yeah.
But I think we're finding that to be more so than teachers not getting all their products.
Okay. Kendall, you look like you were going to say something.
Yeah, let me chime in since I'm the warehouse guy amongst the group here. And I did have concerns with volunteers. I did notice that once COVID kind of came upon us and we reopened the store, we saw that distinct difference in the volunteers who were available to help out. Again, the 80, 70 plus volunteers were no longer with us, which I think left us kind of stretched a little bit. Our internal staff is stocked with very young people. So for me, I was adamant that I didn't want a lot of volunteers trying to pick through our pick lanes from a safety standpoint, from the ability to pick physically and keep moving and not get worn out. So yeah, those were some real concerns that I had about the volunteer mix that we had available to pick.
Yeah. All right. One of the other survey questions was, how well is the process going? And 2 of us said it's going okay, and 1 said we're barely hanging on. So does the person who said that they're barely hanging on want to fess up to that, or? And how do you feel you're doing now? It's been about 2 weeks since we fielded the survey, so feel like it's going okay? Anyone? All right, well, we'll keep moving on. 2 of the 3 centers also said that the picking and packing of online orders is a pretty all-consuming activity, which to me makes me wonder, how sustainable is it? So how long do you think we can keep this up? And I'll ask T, Kendall, and Angela to chime in on that. So Angela, you want to start?
Sure. Well, we have had internal discussions about the sustainability of this, and how much it will really wear on our staff, and what we can do to make things as streamlined and as easy on the staff as possible, with still obviously fulfilling our mission and serving as many teachers as we can. So we have made a lot of adjustments, and one of our staff members put it in a great way of saying it's kind of like a science project where you have to make a change or two, see how that works out before you continue to make changes, so you can really find like what's the best, method. So that's kind of the approach we've been taking. Every month we've made a little bit, of changes here and there. We made several changes that we're hoping in January will be a good test of all of those changes, and we'll be able to see, the positive aspects that will come out of those changes.
Mm-hmm. Right. Kendall.
Repeat that question for me, Amy.
Just how long do you think we can keep this up?
As long as we have to, we've had several discussions about our ability to kind of maintain this level of activity. It's really all hands on deck for the most part. We got a lot of staff who are not accustomed to picking. A lot of people doing a lot of new tasks, but until we are able to open up the store and move in a different direction, I think this is where we're at for now.
Yeah. And T?
I think for us, is as long as we have the volunteers who are willing to pack the product, we can keep it up. I think we found our sweet spot with how many orders we can process. So I think as long as we are allowed the volunteers in the building to continue the packing and they're willing to come, that we're in a good spot right now.
Yeah. And remind me the number of orders you're at right now?
About, with the exception of this month, because it's a short month, it's about 700 a month.
Okay. All right.
And one thing I'll add to that, I'm
but,
sorry I didn't mention.
Yeah, that's fine.
In terms of sustainability as well, we had made the decision to close ordering for December in order for us and our staff to reset and start the new year fresh, all caught up. We did have a little bit of a delay in October, which put us behind in November. So we decided that that was the best decision for our team, and in order to offer the best service to the teachers, which right now there was a longer delay than to pick up their orders than there was previously. So we wanted to start totally new in January.
Yeah, good. Okay. Well, it's been an interesting thing to realize that there are a range of different factors that constrain our ability to offer online ordering. And so in the survey, it was clear that human resources, both staff and volunteers, especially now during the middle of a pandemic, are major potential constraints to our ability. Space was another big one that came up in the survey, the space to prep. Our store looks like a staging area because we're doing a lot of prep and also storing the packed orders throughout the store. So the space to do all of that, the picking, the packing, the storage, definitely is a constraint. And I have to say I've become much more aware of it when I go to my local Target store. I see what they've done in order to be able to do these kinds of similar activities as well. So it's not unique to us by any means. The survey also showed that shelving and shopping bags are a potential constraint, as well as software challenges can be a major constraint. Kendall, what else has constrained our ability to pack ahead?
Well, I would say the number one thing for me is inventory accuracy. That can be a constraint if it's not very tight. Again, Monday we will be offering new items to a new week of teachers, and this week we're still picking for the pickup of next week. So for me, the accuracy is a constraint. If it's not spot on, then it's going to be, a no-show on a teacher's check sheet, and explanations required.
Yeah.
Besides that, just the physical pieces of equipment required to move and order through the system. Again, the team in the back is duplicating exactly what a teacher would do, walking through the store, selecting various items. So since we are duplicating that work, do we have enough carts to keep one contained order in? Do we have enough bags to actually bag the product in without having to go out and purchase new materials for that? So those are a couple that we've had. Labor, again, when and where's the labor going to be allocated. And I think for me, I'm the guy in the back trying to make sure that we have prepped the right items so that on pick day, we have the bins full and we're not slowing down the pick process because we haven't unboxed or unbundled some items.
Yeah, for sure. Sarah, would you add anything else to that?
No, I think we quickly made do with some other random stuff we had around in terms of instead of picking with a shopping cart, it's using a utility cart so that you aren't touching the item so many times, so you can move it from one to the other, and then having a person box at the end. We also have had some really large baker's rolling carts that have come in handy, not just for moving prepped product around, but for storing smaller orders that are only one bag, so they don't take up so much space in a shopping cart. So just trying to really comb our warehouse space for any of those types of, Kendall mentioned too, just bins and other barrels and things, and repurposing stuff we've had and just trying to think creatively of how to reuse it.
Yeah, and I see Sarah's mentioned in the chat, but we have, I think, somewhere between 80 and 90 full-size Kroger shopping carts that we would use in the store, and that's what most of the orders are getting housed in. They're large orders, a lot of them quite large. They very easily will fill a shopping cart, but having a full shopping cart, you can't nest them anymore. So putting them around in the store and in the aisles and in the overflow area, there are carts everywhere. It's sort of an interesting thought to think ahead to how online ordering could potentially coexist with the store being open, if that's even possible. That's coming. We're not thinking about that yet, except to know that that's a question we'll have to answer. Moving on, no-shows are an issue for most of us, regardless of whether we're doing online ordering or some other form of curbside pickup of kits or whatever. 9 out of 10 people who answered that question said that online or that no-shows were an issue. The percentage of orders that are no-shows are between 1 and 20% were the most common responses. And there were several folks who shared ways that they've come to manage the no-shows, if not really reduce them. I'm not sure that anybody's actually reduced them, but there were a couple of things. And T, you had one that you had mentioned about how you've been managing those no-shows. Hopefully you remember what it is.
Well, I have a couple of things, so I'll say them quickly.
Great.
One of the things that we did in the beginning was I partnered with our school districts, and they picked up at the end of the month any orders that were left over for their district and delivered on the school level. And starting this month, we also had some volunteers that volunteered to deliver in previous months to schools as well, if it was a school they were familiar with. But of course, we don't want to get the teachers conditioned because Curbside is not a mobile-free store and it's not a delivery process. So we've rethought, and this month, one of the things that we're going to begin doing is we knew that we only had the capacity for 525 orders. So any orders that are left over from November, if we have teachers who reach out who were not able to get an order, they're going to be able to get an extra credit order, and we're going to be sending those out so we don't have to pack an additional order. So we're going to move those orders by distributing them to different teachers. Starting in January, the last Saturday of each month, that's going to be our last call day, and any teacher who's placed the order that month will be able to come that morning between 9 and noon and pick up their order before we start distributing them out in different ways as extra credit.
So those extra credit orders would be sort of a grab bag. You get a bonus and you don't know what's in it, but here it is. Exactly. It's already packed for somebody, and we don't want to have to unpack it or reshelve it or
it's like surprise supplies.
There you go. Okay. All right. Very nice. All right. Now, Stephanie, I'm going to come to you now. Thank you for being patient. You and Terry had a couple things here right towards the end of the formal part of our conversation. But schoolhouse supplies, you shared something that was helping, at least before the COVID restrictions increased again. Can you talk a little bit about what it was that you were doing as far as no-shows? Because hopefully at some point we'll be able to get back into some of those less restrictive opportunities.
Well, we're set up a little different. We started with a system where people could do individualized orders, and it was just too much for our staff. It it didn't allow anybody to do anything else, and we just couldn't do other business. So we've gone now to a more standardized kits for the teachers. But what we do is we actually only have one pickup day, where they can come at any point during that day. They can send someone on their behalf, so they don't have to be the one to come. We have a number of schools where like a secretary will pick up all of the orders for the school, so nobody has to come individually. That works really well. But then we do allow a makeup day. So we will say like, hey, you can make it, I get it. Here's a second opportunity. And it's like very set up and very standardized. So they know they have, okay, I have another chance, but we do then allow just the second makeup day. And we've actually had even though we only have the one pickup day, we're not doing nearly the orders that I think some of you guys do. We are around 120 to 150 a week is kind of our number of orders. But we still have about the same percentage, I would say, of people that don't pick up on the original pickup day. And then we have usually about half of those that will then do the makeup day. And so we usually only have, a handful of orders on most week that are left over. So
Okay.
that's kind of what we're doing.
All right, great. I'm going to move on to miscellaneous. And I think that it's pretty universal. We all have lots of miscellaneous donations, or what I've started to think of and to call choice shopping items. Those being the things that teachers want to look at and touch and feel and select and say they want this one, but not this one, because they're all unique and they're all different. It's become clear through this pandemic that the best way to distribute choice items is by having the store open. But clearly that's not always possible right now. Some of us are and some of us aren't. So there were several questions or several responses that got at the question of how do you distribute choice items when the store is closed, which also gets at how do you distribute beyond just the store. So I wanted to go to Terry to hear about your distribution events that you've been doing in Wichita. What are you giving away and how do those work?
Yeah, so a little bit similar to what Stephanie's talking about, what we do is weekly distribution events. And so instead of teachers ordering ahead of time, what we tell them, we invite them to an event and we tell them what we're giving away. So usually we have the hot items like a UB box, or maybe for secondary, we'll build a classroom box of all the core supplies. We'll put backpacks. That's where we've been giving out the Lysol welcome kits and things like that. So we have a few of those hot items that will, they'll want to be there for. And then where we are moving kind of the slow moving items, or even some of the Joanne stuff, if it's around a seasonal time, is we'll tell them you can come for this day. You'll get the UB box, classroom supplies, maybe some Dixon Ticonderoga product, and then other classroom supplies. And so when they come, it's not a pick or choose. It's an all or nothing. So if you're coming for the UB box, you're getting everything we're giving to you. We're not overloading them by any means. And so that's how we're able to still move some of that slow moving product that we're still getting in, especially like the Joanne stuff. And then it's also just a good opportunity for us. So similar to Stephanie, we're seeing about 150 to 200 people a week come to our distribution events. We're kind of at the mercy of the school district being on property, school district property. But one of the things that we've been able to do, kind of going back to what we talked to, or what they're talking about earlier with the corporate, is we've been able to move our distribution events offsite. So some of our partners have been able to host those offsite. So it still gives them an opportunity for volunteers, but then it spreads us out across our community as well. And so, yeah, that's kind of what we're doing with the slow moving. And for our no-shows, we have very little because they're requesting the ticket. So maybe we'll get out of the 150 to 200, we'll get 5 or 10. And so what we end up having is people that heard about the event, and so they show up without a ticket. So we're planning on 150 people, say 160 end up showing up. What we'll still do is for those 10 extra, we'll give them the option. They can wait till the end of the event, and then they can come back through and get the product that the no-shows didn't get, or they can go ahead and go through and get kind of that overstock product. So the kind of the slow moving stuff, they wouldn't get like the UB box, but they might get backpacks and some of our crayons and pens and things like that. So that's how we've been able to manage that aspect of it. So it really has been helpful for us knowing, okay, we're planning on 200 people. That's usually who's showing up. And because it's a drive-through distribution event, we can do about 200 in about an hour. So we're moving people quickly through, and we can maximize our volunteers' time as well.
That's great. All right, thank you. And then also wanted to go back to Stephanie with schoolhouse supplies. And can you tell us a little bit more about something that was mentioned in the survey results, your school kits? Tell us what those are and how you're doing those.
Yeah, so we actually, when we moved to the standardized kits for the teachers, we decided to create a second distribution program. So we have our teacher kits and then we have our school kits. So with we take used materials, so I know some centers don't do that. So we have a lot of oddball stuff, and it's one of a kind, and it's harder to give out in the distributions, and it's hard to put on a list if you were doing it individualized. So what we've done is we've created kind of a semi-grab bag, semi-order form hybrid for the schools, where we say, hey, we can give you 50 art supplies, we can give you so many basics, and we give them a semi-short list, but with a caveat that, like, we're not guaranteeing that you're getting exactly this, you'll get items like this. Basics and things we can be a little more standardized, but with the art or the miscellaneous or teacher resource, we can't be specific. And I send them a photo to be like, here's an idea of what you'll get. And then they say, and we've divided into, I think, 5 categories. So we have office, miscellaneous, teacher resource, basics, and then art and incentive. And they can choose which of those categories they want, so they can semi-specialize it to their needs. And then we just pack them a collection of stuff and give it to them. And it's been very popular. I think the biggest issue is just with busy schools, getting them to, like, get back to us is always, communication is always a fun game. But most of the schools want everything. They want all of the different kits that we offer. And it's a great way for us to get out. And really, a lot of it's like our art and incentives are really nice, and they're hard for us to, put in any other way. And so the schools can really get really nice stuff. We can focus on grade with more ease. We can be like, okay, you're this, you're middle school. I give you art supplies that are great for middle school or high school. And that's worked out really well. And the nice thing is we've set it up that we send them the, like, are you interested when we want, so we can really do it on our schedule. Like, they just know at some point they might get we have this available, and it might come up again if we have more supplies. And usually most schools, it ends up being about 9 boxes of stuff that they come, and then someone just picks it up, and then we say it's up to you to distribute it amongst your staff. And usually what most of them do is they just set up a room where they have it out, and then the staff can just shop at the school. And that's been working really well. And it's really helping us move things. We're doing the larger distributions, but that's more standardized products, where this gives them a little bit more of they can choose what they're getting versus, big pallets of basics or something like that.
Sure. So you said 5 different kits. I want to you ran through them quickly. You said office.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Office, I think miscellaneous, basics, art, and what was the 5th?
Teacher resources 1, and then we have art and incentive combined.
Art and incentive. Okay. And about how many items would be in any one of those kits?
It varies a little bit by which kit it is and what we have. We include books in our teacher resource, so that one's a really high because every school gets like around 50 books. And then other workbooks and other math manipulatives and stuff. So that's a very large one. We give around 50, I would say, 50 art, and then another 20 incentives. A lot of it depends on what's come in the door. So because we're doing it on a school by school basis, some schools luck out and we have more, and so they we just got a bunch of art supplies in, so they get a little bit more.
What would your office kit be like? Staplers and hole punches and
staplers. We usually been giving binder clips and paper clips and some of that stuff out with the teacher stuff. So it's the stuff that we're not giving. So if we have a electric pencil sharpener, we give out filing supplies. We give out usually a handful of organizers, some binders, that sort of material is what's in office.
Okay, great. Excellent. Those are great thoughts. One of the last questions on the survey was, post-COVID, do you anticipate offering online ordering and having your store open? I sort of hinted at this a few minutes ago. The responses confirm what someone recently said to me, and that was, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. Once you've started doing online ordering, you can't stop. So no one who responded to the survey said that the answer was no, that they would not be looking at both online ordering and the store open at the same time. There were several responses of, it's too soon to tell. across all survey participants. But this is clearly something that we are all going to need to keep talking about as online ordering, and whether and how that coexists with the store being open and what that all looks like in the future. So looks like we've got quite a few questions. I know Sarah's responded to some of those. I'd like to make sure we have some time to get to those in the next few minutes. But before we open to get into the discussion and general questions, I wanted to ask our panelists, what advice would you offer to anyone considering online ordering as a means to distribute product in your local market? So anyone who has a thought on that, feel free to jump in. We've talked about a lot of things. No sage advice.
I would say give yourself grace and be willing to adjust to what's realistic for your center. Because in the beginning, you don't know because it's something so new, but just be willing to adjust and know that, you know, no matter what, that you're going to get it to what's realistic for your center.
Yep. Anyone else?
I mean, we've made changes every single month. I don't know, sometimes I feel like it's every week we're making changes. So just being flexible and understanding that when we do one thing, we might realize that we have to reverse that decision and do it in a different way. You know, and there's nothing wrong with that because we're learning, you know, as we go. But the fact that we made the decision to remain closed through all of the school year and keep only curbside has made our lives a lot easier, because now we can focus on, okay, how can we just make curbside the best it can be and not be worried about the other programs. So once there's some sort of decision, it gives you a little bit more clarity, but just being flexible.
Right. Kendall, you were going to say something?
Yeah, just maybe to, you know, start at a modest level so you can have success early on with your internal team and the impact you have on the teachers, and then maybe scale up accordingly. Probably the thing that most people don't realize, again, the back end functions of picking, packing, and placing orders is displacing the time that the customer would have spent. So it is a lot. It is a lot of activity, and everybody says, well, Amazon ships all the time next day. Well, Amazon has the second largest workforce in the country. So they make it look easy, but it's a tough challenge in the back.
Yeah, that is for sure. Anyone else want to add any advice? Joel, you got a handle on questions that we may need to go back to?
Yeah, we got
Sarah,
quite a few questions coming in that I wanted to hit. The first one just came in. I think everybody can go. What app or computer programs are people using for the online orders? I think just going around, that'd be great to know.
Yeah, and that is a question in the survey. So you'll see when I send out the results, you'll get to see, and you can look for the Excel spreadsheet so you can actually see by center who responded with using which particular software. But let's go ahead and Kendall, you start. We'll just.
Yeah, we're on Apple base.
Okay, Angela.
3C.
Terry?
We use Square.
Okay. Tanisha?
We use Apple Base as well.
And Stephanie?
You just have them fill out a SurveyMonkey survey.
Okay.
All right.
Great.
Another question we got is, what days of the week is everybody doing distribution events? Like how many days, I guess, and are you doing weekends as well? Is probably.
Yeah. In Cincinnati, we're doing pickup, the distribution pickups by teachers are on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday right now. T, I think you said Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yes.
Angela, remind us which days?
Same.
Same. And then Stephanie and Terry, you're doing things a little bit differently, but what, Stephanie, I think you said one distribution event. I could be mixing it up now. Tell us.
Yeah, we just do Wednesdays and then usually a makeup on a Friday or a Monday.
And Terry?
And we've been sticking to Saturday mornings.
Okay.
We had another one about, is there a max amount of items that people are being allowed to shop for? Just to...
We've got about 82 items on ours right now, and I think there's some, Kendall and I were talking about this earlier today. There's something on the site that says, you know, please only request the things that you really need, but there's no limit as to what they can take other than the number per item. Is that true with others as well? Angela T?
We did have it that way, and moving forward in January, we are actually going to set a limit so that the max will be around 45, 50 items that they can select. One big thing obviously is time it takes to pack each order with, you know, 70 plus items, but also size of how big the orders are. And, you know, one of the things that when you asked about how we select what item, I mean, one of the things I take into consideration is the size. You know, we can't offer 10 items that are too big to fit in a bag. So each month we kind of have to rotate when we have larger items we can put out.
Yeah. We actually have some pretty large items in ours. We've got glitter, what are those? Glitter display boards and trifold presentation boards, but those are all added on the way out to the cars. Well, the presentation boards, because they're very large. So T, how about you? Do you have a limit per order?
We're usually run around 50 to 60 a month. And like you said, Amy, we have all our large items going out at the end when they pick up. So we code all their bags to state if they're getting airheads or glitter frame foam, we put all those items at the end.
Yeah. All right. What else do we have? Any others we haven't gotten to yet?
Do you communicate with teachers via text or email or both? This question just came in.
Sarah, can you answer that for us? And then we'll check with others.
Yeah, so through our platform, Apple-based, teachers have a portal where they log in, and if they have an upcoming time, it's like one of the first things that they see. And then Kristen, who is typically, she's our school outreach coordinator, which is not actually her title, / store manager, which is also not really her title, but she has been sending out through her own email a reminder, just because we find, as many of you guys do too, that sometimes emails through platforms get blocked. So we find that sending, like, so she could write in the chat if I'm completely wrong, but she copy pastes all the emails and sends then either that morning or the night before a reminder just saying like, hey, your pickup's ready. Don't forget, you're signed up to come between 2:30 and 5:30 tomorrow. And yeah, so then she also sends a follow-up for the no-shows to try and get them to reschedule for a time that's, again, during curbside, but then we are a little more flexible to say like, anytime before a week from now, please stop in. And she's good about then writing on their form to reschedule for another day.
Yeah. How about Angela T? What's your communication with teachers?
We communicate with them just via email. So when their order is ready, they get an email. And the deadline they're given is actually they have 4 full days that we are open to pick up. And then their deadline is on that last day. They then get a reminder email 2 days before their deadline as well. And the day after their deadline, they get an email, kind of like a surprise email that says, hey, we haven't actually canceled your order yet because we haven't had time, but we will. So you're given an extra 2 days. So all of it is email though.
T, are you doing email or any other form of communication?
We're email as well.
Stephanie, Terry, anything different in your shops?
Just email.
Okay.
Yeah, we use for ticketing, we use Eventbrite, and so they push out a bunch of reminder emails. Initially, they get a email from us, and then we use text as well the morning of if there's any last minute changes, but it's all primarily through.
Okay. Go ahead, Joel.
All right, last one just popped in. How many of you use photos for teachers to see what they can choose from?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
That's something we previously, like teachers have asked for a long time. And we've gotten a lot of good feedback on that, just like how helpful that is. So that's been awesome. Thanks to Kendall for making that happen.
And then missed one from a while ago from Steve, but for Cincinnati, Charlotte, and Orlando, what are your plans for store reopening? It sounds like you guys, some of you are staying closed for the rest of the year, but.
Right. So Angela is in that boat. T, are you all staying closed through the rest of this year? Or
Yes.
is that, yeah, okay. Here in Cincinnati, what we have decided is that we're not going to decide right away. So we've decided that through February, we're going to do online, and we're just going to focus our attention on online, to the point that somebody else recently made, that it gives you something that you can focus on. So we're focusing on that. Of course, Lysol distribution and other oddities that are around. And as we get through the post-holiday uptick in the COVID cases, which undoubtedly is coming, we'll see how things are looking, and we'll decide. I mean, we'll probably extend it if I had to make a guess today, but whether it'll be all the way to the end of the year or not, we have not yet decided that.
Oh, one last one. Looks like it's for T there, of how you select who receives the extra credit shots.
But for extra credit, what we plan on doing is we're going to select teachers. We're going to tell teachers that we have extra credit available, and if they need extra supplies, they can tell us when they get there, like, yes, I would like extra credit. And our goal is to allow them to fill up the school supply closet. That way, for those teachers who may not be eligible or can't come, it's enough supplies in the schools to still fill that gap. And for me, one of the things that I'm going to be doing for those that don't go out doing curbside is reaching out to the schools who are not eligible. And we know that all those schools also have a small pocket of need as well. And I'm going to be offering them extra credit orders as well, so that way they can build their supply closet for those students.
Okay. Well, we've covered a lot, a whole lot. I'm hoping that we've gotten to most of the questions. I'm going to try to save the chat and go back through it at some point to kind of scan through and see what we've got. Hopefully this has been helpful. I think it's the beginning of a discussion. I think there's a lot more to come. It's great to hear what each of the different centers are doing. We all learn from each other, and so I thank you for your participation today. Thank you all to the panelists and participants today. I will look to send out the link to the results from the survey probably today in the next few minutes, and if not in the next few minutes, then later this evening or over the weekend. But hopefully it'll be helpful to everyone, and we'll keep in touch. I think the pattern with these webinars is, if you've got something that you would like to know more about, you kind of put it out there and pull it together and get some folks to participate, and we just make it happen. And it's a great forum for learning, especially since we can't be together in person. So I think we will call